I want to just take a few minutes to talk about Civic Fusion by way of a story of how I came to find this concept. And it really was when we were in the abortion talks. We had incredible women who were so divided, and there was no possible way that we were going to reach common ground on abortion policy. There was no way. And somehow when we talked about that gap, and I will tell you there was a lot of pain because that gap was never going to be filled, right? These 6 women came to love each other and yet knew they could never fully connect because of that difference. And somehow, when we talked about that difference, the bond seemed to burn even brighter. And we'd end the day and someone would say we were on sacred ground or that was mysterious. And we all knew we had been in a space that was unusual. And I called it at the time, I said, this is a paradoxical unity. But it really led me on this adventure to figure out what that was. I was so intrigued by it and so thirsting for it. You know, it satisfied such a deep spiritual sense. It felt like we touched something beyond the norm. And so I started by buying a little set of magnets. And I would sit with these magnets and put the positive and positive side together, and you feel the gap, right? You can't create a bond with those magnets. And I loved that. I'd sit there, yeah, I think a lot. And I'd sit with my magnets, and I would just love the intensity and the insistence of that gap because it was so real. So then I bought more magnets and bigger magnets, and I was trying to get the magnets to be this, connection, and it didn't work. They would just flip around, couldn't get a satisfying bond. So I decided that I would write an email to MIT magnetics professors. All right. And I had an MIT address, so I thought, okay, they won't think I'm a nutcase. They'll just think I'm a weird MIT person. So eventually someone answered me, a man named Alan Lightman, who wrote Einstein's Dreams, which happens to be one of my most favorite books. And he was a physicist and head of the MIT writing program at the time. So he said, sure, come on in. I went to his office and I explained this, and in 1 minute he said, oh, you're looking for the nuclear force. And I said, what? And he said, in an atom, you've got protons and neutrons in the nucleus. And the protons all have a positive magnetic force, and they stay together. The nuclear force overrides the magnetic force and holds that together. So the idea is that if you bring the protons close enough, a completely different force kicks in, a nuclear force that will hold it together. And I looked at him and I said, I loved chemistry. I said, how come I never asked that question, right? So I took that home, and he had explained that's what fusion is. Fusion is when you try to bring protons together and they hold because of the nuclear force. So I took that and thought and paced and thought. And literally this is an 8-year process. And one day I was sitting in my office and it came to me, it was fusion, civil fusion, civil fusion, civic fusion. And it all clicked together at that point. And that's essentially why I wrote the book, is to explain to people that this polarization is only one choice. There's also the possibility of bringing people with deep differences close enough together to enable them to bond to achieve a common public goal. We've seen it, it's doable, and what we're seeing out there right now is just the pure opposite of that. It's small-mindedness as opposed to the willingness to be intellectually and spiritually stretched to entertain different perspectives and to hold those different perspectives together at the same time to cause something new to emerge from them.